What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's happening to the market and what's going on with the share prices as we have some interesting developments and also some very bullish news that came out for NIO. I did talk about this yesterday in some detail, but I want to break this down in more detail and talk about why on earth NIO's deal or possible deal with Mercedes-Benz could be big for the long term. Now, for the short term, the share price may not reflect this, but for the long term, we could see something very beautiful coming. So I want to break down exactly why that is, but before I do anything like this, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, let's break down what's happening to the market so far. So I just wanted to mention that the market made an attempt to bounce after the PCE data came out. The market tried to pump, and NIO also pumped with the market when we started off, but then the market ended up selling off later on as time progressed because of the PMI reports, because of some hawkish things said by the Fed speakers, and the yield starting to rise again. So overall, the bears got control. They ended up dragging SPY, ES, the futures all down. We saw Tesla try to pump and it ended up just slowing down. And NIO pumped and slowed down too, but overall it still held up a little bit better than the market. So NIO was looking quite decent, but there are some concerns I have about it. I'm going to talk about these in just a couple of minutes. For the data, just as a reminder, the data was quite good. We ended up seeing all the inflationary numbers as expected or below expectations, which is quite good. PCE year over year was 3.5%. But like I said earlier, the Chicago PMI that came out a little bit later was a little bit lower than what we wanted it to be, showing more signs of contraction. Besides that, the Michigan data was okay. And then the Fed speaker Williams came out and he was being very hawkish as he was talking about the Fed being restrictive for an extended period of times and having to raise rates even higher for longer. So the market ended up slowing down. As far as NIO goes, Deutsche Bank is still maintaining a buy rating for NIO. NIO's price-price ratio is going up a bit as NIO gains some relative strength. And on top of all of this, there's not really a whole lot of change for the short interest. NIO's volume is about 40 million, which is still a little bit below average, but still holding up quite decently. And overall, you guys can see right here, the EC6 has lightened up, and you can see it's just a very, very popular car for NIO, driving in a lot more sales. Last but not least, Mercedes-Benz and NIO are exploring an EV tech partnership, according to reports. That could be very, very bullish for them moving forward, because once again, you guys can see that the new report claims that Mercedes-Benz and NIO have discussed this big partnership. And in doing so, both companies could benefit from each other's advantages. So Mercedes is trying to gain more and more of more and more power, more and more leverage in China, and it's becoming a little difficult for them to do so. But NIO, on the other hand, is trying to gain. Excuse me, sorry guys. They're trying to gain more and more power and more capabilities in Europe. So it's kind of like they have this really really good exchange that could be very very interesting. Now going forward, there have been a lot of talks between them, and there have been a lot of talks between a potential membership and partnership between both of the CEOs. They also talked about how NIO is trying to improve its financial conditions. Mercedes could also benefit from the resources of the pioneering EV. On top of this, the resources said that they haven't really talked as much about everything. They talked more about just technology to be exchanged, and that's pretty much it. And they also claimed that NIO was the one that approached them, and they initially faced some resistance, according to one source, but it ended up not continuing that way as many of these talks became more and more productive. And that's according to what NIO ended up saying. They denied the claims that they were basically like not likely to proceed and this and that. So this is some very, very good stuff for them. Now, right now, we don't know what's truly going to happen, but there has been a lot of interest by both of the companies as the CEOs have met up, and there's been a lot of talk about it. So I think that there is a possibility that this could end up playing out, and so far there's been a lot of hype for NIO. If this happens, this could be a massive bullish catalyst to help NIO absolutely explode. But just know that this is not confirmed. There are just talks going on right now, so we'll see what happens in the future. But with that said, I want to just break down some news for you guys. Unfortunately, the technicals do not look the best for NIO and the markets, and this may lead to a slowdown. Now, over the weekend, we should be getting NIO's new delivery numbers. I believe September's tend to not be the strongest of months. September's and October's are oftentimes not the best, but November and December tend to be much stronger. Going into this cycle right now, we'll see what happens to NIO, but I just want to note that there is a technical development that's not looking the best. we have this head and shoulders right here on NIO. If NIO ends up breaking below 8.79, it's going to likely come all the way down back to 8.3. That could be a relatively big drop, leading to more potential downside. So we're going to be watching to see what happens with deliveries and how this ends up affecting the share price. As of right now, the technicals do look a bit more bearish as NIO got this nice pump and dump today, and we have a head and shoulders. On Tesla, it's no different. Tesla has a potential head and shoulders developing on the 30 minutes time frame. If Tesla wants to be bullish, want to see it break above 254 going into its deliveries. If it's bearish, want to see it break below this low. If it breaks below 245, we could see Tesla coming all the way back down to 240. I want to be very careful about this. Like I told you all, Tesla's looking kind of weak, so you have to be very careful when trying to dissect this chart and trade anything if you're holding anything over the weekend. As far as SPY goes, there isn't really much of a head and shoulders, but SPY is looking weaker after getting this very bearish drop. The daily candlestick looks kind of weak, so we're going to be watching for a retest potentially of this 200 EMA. If SPY retests 422 and we break below it, we're going to start sinking towards the 410s. That means like 417, 415, and etc. However, if we end up bouncing off it, there is potential for us to try to get back to 430. But right now, after the big rejection we got, after the failure to break out, it's favoring the bears a bit more. So I want everyone to just be very careful because of SPY. It's looking kind of weak. QQQ also just so happens to have a head and shoulders on the 30 minutes time frame. You will notice right here, a little hard to see, but you guys can see it. We have a left shoulder. We've got the head. We're forming a potential right shoulder. So there could be some more downside coming, and we could be seeing this full measured move to about 353 very soon if we do get some kind of like pop and then drop, or if we just drop from here. A head and shoulders is a real possibility. That could be something very bearish. We want to be very careful when talking about that and looking at it. Apple, same thing. Left shoulder, head, could be forming a right shoulder. If this plays out, Apple's going to be sinking down. So there's some risk for downside as we start October, excuse me, guys, October. If October ends up not being the best of months, that's what historically happens, so it wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary. We have a left shoulder, a head, a possible right shoulder forming on Nvda. If that's the case, Nvda could start sinking. We could see some more downside. So we made the attempt to 444. We got that move, and now it's starting to slow down. That is most definitely on the table. So because the whole market could be slowing down very soon, okay, this could affect NIO to some extent. This could lead to some possible downside. Now, I'm going to talk about the delivery numbers just to talk about how they could look for NIO in my video for tomorrow. NIO has deliveries coming up very soon as we're approaching the end of September and the end of Q3. So watch this head and shoulders. We'll see how it goes, and we're going to see what happens to the market moving forward. All right, guys. So thank you so much for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you, NIO to the moon, because the long term is still incredibly bright, and peace out.